Hello and welcome. I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior. I'm an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington. Welcome to the Guts, Grit, and Great Business Show. Today, I'm so excited. I have got Erik Luhrs with me, and let me switch. There we go. Welcome, Erik.
Oh,
I'm loving our. We were chatting just right beforehand, and having an interesting conversation. But I'll first start by saying that Erik and I met in a mutual mastermind, and we chatted a little bit ago, about a week ago now. I love your tagline. So Erik Luhrs is known as the Bruce Lee of revenue generation and is the creator of Revenue Kung Fu. I love it. Can't wait to hear more about that. He works with founders, entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants and takes them on a journey to discover their revenue kung fu, which allows them to generate far more profit while also enjoying far more purpose and potential from their business and their lives. So Erik, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I'm excited to hear about the background behind the Bruce Lee of revenue generation and the revenue kung fu titles. How'd you get to those?
Well, let's see. I guess a conglomeration of things, I guess you'd call it. I studied martial arts for many years. Got a couple of black belts in 2 different systems. Ended up studying like 11 different styles. Not to impress you, but I taught myself. I said, after you know how to kill somebody, 50 different ways, it's really, belts don't mean anything anymore. But I really enjoyed it. I had a good time, but I wanted to advance. So I kind of took, the journey through martial arts or through Kung Fu, because Kung Fu doesn't actually mean martial arts. It actually means a skill acquired through perseverance. So I wanted to add more skills, right? It was like, okay, I know all the stuff in martial arts, but I don't want that to be the end all be all of who I am. So then I journeyed inwards. I studied neurolinguistic programming and Silva and other cognitive behavioral things because I was fascinated by the subconscious. And I'm realizing, the subconscious mind drives everything. And so, and then I was, also in business. So I moved into business coaching and doing that. And then I created the Guru selling system. And around about that time, I had a client. This is going back about 11 years. And I really loved Bruce Lee from the martial arts. And I had a whole bunch of Bruce Lee quotes on my wall. And I was working with him, was coaching him, and he kept trying to, like, when you have a client who keeps trying to put themselves in a box, and you have to keep reaching out, or so I was trying to knock down all his boxes, and I kept using quote after quote from Bruce Lee. They all seemed apropos. And after about an hour, he just says, "You know what? You're like a Bruce Lee of sales." And I was like, "That's a moniker."
That's a writer downer. Yeah.
And then I sat on it for a year because I was terrified, because I said, you got to have the cojones to back that up. You can't just, I'm the Bruce Lee of sales out there. So after a year, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna live up to this. I'm gonna be this. And then, so I'm Bruce Lee of sales. And then I started like looking more at like lead gen. So then I became and I developed a subconscious lead generation system. So then I became the Bruce Lee of sales and lead gen. And then I started looking at positioning and created the peerless positioning system. And so I became the Bruce Lee of sales and lead generation and positioning. And I said, this freaking tagline is going to have more ampersands than it's going to have letters pretty soon. So I sat back and I said, okay, well, what do I really am trying to help people with? And ultimately it was revenue generation. So that's why, when I looked at it from that macro point, so that's how I became the Bruce Lee of revenue generation. And then the revenue Kung Fu piece flowed out of that, because as I look at what I've been doing, as I said, I started like business coach, then sales, then lead gen, then positioning. I moved up into brand and everything. I've been moving more and more up the stream, of business. And ultimately I realized that, great businesses flow from a founder. They flow from a person. They flow from a beingness of a human who starts this business, right? That's why you're founder, entrepreneur, coach, consultant. And that power that they have, that they either bring or don't bring to their business, is what determines not just how the business does, but how their life goes in accordance with that business. And so that's a journey, up that river. And Kung Fu, like I said, means a skill acquired through perseverance. So I realized that really all of my stuff, my martial arts, the NLP, the going through business and all this stuff was really my journey, and realizing that that's the journey, obviously not taking 20 years, but that's the journey that I want to help other people go through so that they can bring out their true self into their business, really know who they are, and then bring that into the business so that the business has, it starts off powerfully, because the most important thing about a business is it differentiated. And if you bring your true self to a business, you are by default distinct, right? Because there's so many
Mm,
businesses that are out there that are Me Too businesses. And I don't mean that in the Me Too movement. I mean it as in,
right.
you sell ice cream, Me Too, you sell jet engines, Me Too. Um, and really, helping, finding those folks and helping them to create those powerful businesses from their essence, take an aspect of themselves, put it into a business, create a brand from it, create a market from it, and then go to market and boom, 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 and all that stuff. That's ultimately how that all happened. And I probably went on way longer than you were anticipating, but there
No.
you go. There's the story.
No, I love that. There's several things. I mean, there's a couple things. And first of all, it makes me so glad that I asked what's behind revenue kung fu, because I don't know anything about kung fu. So I didn't even know that the definition of kung fu is a skill gained through perseverance. And
Mhm,
so part of me, I'm like, hooray. I mean, I just created a podcast called Guts, Grit, and Great Business. And
mhm,
the conversations that I want to have with people, though, are about the reality that business is a marathon, not a sprint.
mhm.
And the concept that sometimes through our hardest times are the moments where we're under the most pressure, we're feeling the most compressed, either by life or by business. We have the opportunity to make some of our best decisions, some of the decisions that actually make us, right?
Yeah.
So I love the title Revenue Kung Fu, especially now that I know what it means. And the other part that you said about, what happens when you bring your true self to your business,
Mhm.
by your very nature, then your business is going to be distinct if you're showing up with your true self. And I think, that's really important. And it's really important in the context of business, because I feel like you see in the marketplace a bit what you're describing. A lot of people try to leave themselves out, or they, accidentally leave themselves out of their business in the way that is actually most meaningful and would create the most impact for them.
Right.
So talk to me about your favorite clients. How do you do your work through either your revenue kung fu program or system, to get people, understanding and working on what really is most important?
Um, well, it has been a journey too.
Hmm.
So now what I'm doing is I'm working with people, um, looking to work with people like in a group coaching
Mm,
environment, right? The program that everybody's putting together now is starting people out on that journey. And the reason is I say, looking is because, again, this has been a journey, right? So these
hmm.
various pieces that I've put together. So I've worked with people through coaching. I've worked with people through group trainings. I've worked with people, ultimately, especially when I got into positioning and branding a couple of years ago, I got pulled up into larger and larger corporations
Mm,
doing, you know, doing more delivery than teaching or training or
mm,
anything. So now what I realize is, and that was okay, and it made money, but I'm realizing that um, that's not going to make a difference in the world.
mm,
Uh, you know, Going out because what happened was, because I did these amazing things with clients, and I'm not gonna take credit for it. What I did was I empowered clients to have amazing results. Like, my favorite client, we took them from a pipeline of about 100,000 to 10 million in about 2 months.
mm,
Um, and but it was he and I working together, that co-creation, and pulling out of him his true potential, his true desire, and helping him to expand that. And so I got the best results, earlier on in my work with people when I was working with a smaller company or a smaller set of people that had, that potential. As you would think, well, if you're going to go up to multi-billion-dollar companies, you should be able to make explosive growth. And it was really interesting that the more the money went up, like the smaller the thinking was, right? You
Mm.
would say to somebody, "All right, let's do this amazing thing," and like, well, yeah, but we got to get sign off from this department and that person and this, and it's got to go blah and blah. Yeah, you know what? Can you just do some, can you just help us with a couple of email sequences or something like that? Like, okay, but that'll get you whatever. But you said you wanted something interesting or cool or whatever. So, now my work is with these one-on-one clients, and now again with this small group coaching that I'm going to be putting together. And it's it's interesting because I mean I've done different pieces of this, but I'm looking forward to it, right? Because I've looked forward to every stage in the
Mhm.
evolution of this thing, because I can't even claim that it's like okay, revenue kung fu is like my way of doing things, but again, I don't claim to be the genius that it comes from a higher level than me. So I'm looking forward to what this is going to turn into. So at present, clients, one-on-one clients, but going forward, it's going to be groups because I want to see this thing grow, right? I want to see
Yeah.
other people actually take this and
Yeah.
and run with it and what they're going to do with it.
No, I love that. And the number of times, I mean, it's fascinating because I think you spoke a bit to the issue of like, especially for people who are serving others in business, the idea that, oh, moving up the scale, especially size wise up to larger businesses and larger corporations, like, isn't it, really awesome up there at the top? And yet the constraint that you talk about, from a decision making standpoint, the amount of effort that it takes for a company at that size to mobilize, to shift directions or shift gears. I've heard from a lot of people who are in that space that ends up not being the favorite place to be, that they much prefer working with businesses that are scrappy enough and
Yeah,
still flexible enough to turn on a dime and try something new and really, create some of the biggest outcomes. And so it's interesting to hear that through your perspective, but I think there's a lot of truth there. Um, the other thing that I love actually though about how your title came about is that it was reflected to you by a client. I think that's really, really powerful.
yeah,
And I think it can be hard for us in our business to see ourselves in a way that we're truly seen and that we show up in the marketplace. And so I think that's a really fun part of your story that actually came about through a client feedback. So that's awesome. I think it makes it super. It's a fun story to tell. I think you need to you know build that up. I can tell that you're modest about it, but that's awesome. It's a huge compliment, right? The Bruce Lee
yes,
level of accomplishing anything is a pretty significant level.
yeah.
So with that in mind, what do you feel like I'd love to know more about your background and what you bring to the table in your
Mhm.
work with clients where you're really able to draw them out, bring their true selves into business. What experiences do you feel like really contribute to you being able to do that?
Well, I mean, my own work on myself,
Mhm.
obviously. We are all the drawing board, I guess, of our own businesses. So I remember in when I was in martial arts, I remember at some point, I was an assistant instructor and I was a brown belt, and they had me out there teaching black belts. And I remember being like, "You sure you want me to go out there and because I got a brown belt on. They're black belts. They're not going to be happy if I strut out there and like start barking orders at them." And my teacher was like, "Look, I'm going to show you this technique that, which is what I was going to teach them tonight, but now you're going to teach it to them." He's like, "As long as you know one technique more than they do,
Mhm.
you're their teacher." So I was like, okay. And so really, I mean, in terms of the way that I work with people, there are people like I've worked with clients who, have a great marketing system already in place, right? But they've lost the juice for, they have the machinery, but they've lost the juice for the story. Or they don't have great marketing, but they have a great story, right? So, giving them those pieces. But again, or on top of all of this, and through the evolution piece, is that it's the person, it's the energy of the person, the beingness that they bring to it, that really is that really creates everything. So if you think about business as a river, I'll use that example. You got the head of the river, and then the river flows down to the ocean. So the ocean, where the river meets the sea, that's where we're all trying to get to, right? That's the sail. That's the end goal of everything. But what happens is that, as we go back upstream, we dam ourselves, right? Because we have a blockage, upstream in the marketing, and we have a blockage before that in, on our position, or we have a blockage before that in our target market, or we have a blockage before that in our brand. And ultimately, clearing the dams is one thing, but it's also the strength of the fountainhead, the source of the river. You got a little trickle coming out of the ground. By the time it gets to the sea, you're not even going to notice it, right? So it's got to be powerful. So first, really helping people to get to their power. So when I'm talking with people, when I'm second time I'm talking with them, I'm listening, but more I'm feeling for where are they stopping themselves? Where are they limiting themselves? Because this is going to sound cheesy as crap right now. It's like I know what I'm saying. I'm thinking in my head what I'm going to say. I'm like, this is going to sound cheesy as crap.
I like
But
cheese. We already covered that
more
point.
cheese,
I
more
like
cheese, please.
cheese. More cheese.
Exactly,
Yeah.
more cheese. Totally non-dairy though. But
Perfect.
um, human beings are such beautiful creatures. We have so much potential. We were put here, all of us, and we grow up. And I say this because I was surrounded by well-meaning people who happily told me my limitations throughout my life. Don't dream about this. Don't do that. You're not good enough for this. I remember, I will not name names, but one person telling me, somebody very important in my life, saying, "You're not a leader of men." Like, and all these, don't quit your day job, and all these other wonderful things that people say to you. You believe this, you're a Giants fan, you're, and just, you're programmed, and you go into the business world, sit there, do this work. Don't dream about that job. You're never going to get beyond this level in this and all those boxes. So then when you go, let's say, to create a business, all those boxes, where's the fountainhead? No strength, right? So first, destroying the boxes, that's number one. Unleashing the dragon is what I like to say, your inner dragon. Unleash your dragon, and, really embrace the beauty that is you, and then say, how do I want to manifest that into the world? Because what do we do? As soon as we think about a business, we stop ourselves. We turn around and we say, well, what would the world want, right?
Yes.
Because an entrepreneur is somebody who solves problems for somebody else for a profit. So I got to find a problem. I got to solve the problem. The world doesn't want to see me. They just want to problem solve. And all of a sudden you create a problem solving business, and you're, just like other businesses, and all of a sudden brand, you're damned, target market, you're damned, boom, boom, boom. And then you wonder, why isn't the river flowing fast to the sea? So really, step one, how would I work with people? I get them out of their box, and I yank them out again and again, because people will run for boxes. As soon as you get up, you get them all psyched up on a call. And as soon as you hang up, you talk to them a week later. It's like, yeah, see, they put themselves back in the box. Yank them out. And then, knock down that dam, help them with plans and strategy and all that stuff. But, keep the riverhead strong, and keep knocking down the boxes and the dams. You're gonna have an incredible business and an incredible life.
Gosh, there's so much I love about that. I mean, I've got some questions for you, which will come next, but This idea that we get put in a box, with the help of well-meaning people
Yeah.
in our lives. It's as a parent, like I can speak to the experience from, my childhood, obviously. And as a parent, it's like, oh my gosh, how do I do this part better? How do I, and especially, so our 7-year-old, and I think maybe we were
Yeah.
talking about this right ahead of time, but he's special needs. And at school, for him to be successful, he requires quite a bit of scaffolding, quite a bit of
Hmm.
supports and people who know about his journey and can help him with that. And even then, there's lots of hurts that happen along the way. There's lots of things that get said and done that
Yeah.
I know are not serving him. And so we started, it's been a while ago now, but we started this little ritual where every day we have our own little mantra that we say. It used to be while he was still in school. We said it before he got on the bus. We'd stand at the front porch, and remember the first time I asked him to do it, he was like, what? He totally didn't get what was going on, but
Uh-huh.
just a little series of phrases, right? I am strong. I am brave. I try my best. I can do anything. I love myself.
Uh-huh.
And we go through this every day. And the first couple of times he said it, it was kind of this wavery little voice, like, why am I? And now, I mean, he busts this out, with the strong voice, and like he'll shout it from our front porch. And,
Hmm.
um, but we've talked about the context of why we do this, and I've said to him, people are going to tell you things in your life. And this includes mommy and daddy. Like, we're going to say things at times because we're people that are going to make you feel bad or make you feel like you can't do something, or change your perspective about yourself. And the thing that matters the very, very most is what you think of yourself, like
Uh-huh.
full stop. And so he understands the context for it, and he has such a strong little voice when he says it. But the thing that I find fascinating, I mean, your work, like, I love this approach. And
Yeah.
I'm also wondering, when you bring it into adults running businesses, like, do they know at the outset this is what you're going to do? Or do they think they're getting something else, right? And then you sneak in like, no, here's what we're really going to do.
Well, going forward, that's a great question. Going forward, yes, they're going to know that. And the reason I say going forward is because this is funny enough. When I started back as a business coach 15 years ago, I was working in NLP, and then I got to master practitioner level. I was working with, Silva. I was doing all this different
Mm,
stuff. Even, I used to do Reiki. Um, um, and so energy and all that was how I started. And I delivered it, but it was always about results, right? When you go into, because, and I can talk about it now because I'm a victim of what I'm talking about.
mm-hmm.
Because when I went into business, I started thinking, okay, well, who can I serve? What do they want? What's the problem I can solve for a profit and everything? And, I got very, very good at marketing and lead gen and everything, because I was literally able to put myself into other people and write and talk from their perspective. Um, and so when I started, I had this mix. I had this mix of energy, which was the tactical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what you say, what you do, blah, blah, blah. But there was also the energetic, spiritual piece, the subconscious piece, which just came naturally as I was doing it. And I'll be completely transparent. That's when I did my best, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
over the last few years, first I had a little medical condition or a little medical issue a few years ago. I won't go into that, but that, and then I started focusing more and more on results, right? Um, and I've, I mean, I've done some stuff, had some great successes, but I've also had some, historic failures, mostly over the past few years, because I started shutting out the spiritual, right? I became
Mm-hmm.
far more focused on the business end, because when you have a health scare, you kind of, you go back down to, levels 1 and 2 in Maslow's hierarchy,
Yeah.
and so your higher thinking, which is what I'd always been driven by, gets shut down. So I've been focusing more on that,
Mm-hmm.
and then, now I look around the marketplace and I see so many businesses that are driven by really a level 1, 2 kind of energy and approach in the marketplace. And they're the ones that are also suffering right now, right? Because they were the ones that were built on, I'm going to outsource my marketing, I'm going to outsource my operations, I'm going to outsource my logistics, I'm going to outsource, hand off this, hand off that, and blah, blah, blah. And all these businesses that were like, I have an idea, I'm going to get some backing, we're going to hire a bunch of people to do everything, we're going to make it scalable and sellable, and in 5 years, we'll all walk away with $60 million in our pockets each. And I've seen it done, right? And these guys aren't very happy. They're very rich, but they're not very happy. I literally know billionaires that have tried to commit suicide, because the money doesn't buy you happiness. So it's really, and I know I'm going far afield of the question here, but in terms of delivering now to people, yes, I'm going to let them know up front, because I used to do it. I used to integrate it without thinking about it. I used to offer the, what was it? I used to give them the sizzle, and then,
Yes.
sell the sizzle and then give them the steak. Now I'm going to tell you that here's a raw piece of beef. We're going to cook it, and it will taste delicious, but you have to stick around and you have to cook the steak, because I'm not going to prepare it for you anymore.
No, I love that. And I think, and I really truly was curious, like whether people knew up front what they were actually getting, in part because I think some people probably are willing to go there and others may not, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing that I mean, there's two things that I really appreciate about your sharing is one, this idea that, and I see it, I've done it, I've seen other people who have done this, of like looking at the marketplace. And especially, like, I feel like this conversation is critical right now, time of COVID, right? This whole talk around pivoting or making adjustments in our business. And like for me, I spent weeks at the beginning of COVID trying to figure out, like, what do people need? How can I deliver something in the way that they need it right now? And I was on a conversation with somebody who has a massive online following, right? Is a big influencer, does all sorts of, and he's got a really strong sense of humor, and so that's why people enjoy following him. And he made the point that regardless of what's happening in the marketplace, his starting point is, what do I want to create? What am I here to create? And so this concept that I think you were speaking to, of like moving back to your center and like what we're here to create. Sometimes, regardless of what the marketplace needs or wants, or, what we think it needs or wants. I think the difference between those two exercises is, one is analytical, like, let me look at the marketplace and figure out what the needs are, versus starting, inward, starting maybe in our hearts and saying, okay, what am I here to create? What am I really being called to create right now?
Yeah. Yeah. The key piece is, the deeper that you go inwards, the more you're going to scale outwards. But we're not taught that. We're taught from birth, we're taught the exact opposite. We're told to fit in. And really, it's about, I mean, what do you want to create is a powerful question. And I like to go, even before the creation, is, because there's people, what's a deeper question? Well, who am I? Okay, well, that's a deeper question. One of the questions I like to start with is, why are you? They go, why am I what? No, why are you? Question mark. And when we ask those kind of questions, when we get that deep, that's when the boxes start to fall away, right? Because how do you answer a question like, why are you, in a box? And when you can escape that box, all of a sudden you're like you just start to, like, I've asked people that question. I could see their eyes change, because they're like, I can see their brain is like, I don't, does not compute. I do not have an answer. They have to go outside of the circuitry. They have to go outside of the CPU and go into the, the internet of the universe, and really pull. And all of a sudden, that's when, like, I see the glint of what I would say is the dragon, in their eyes. Like, all of a sudden, it's like, they, like, just for a second, that bigger power comes to them, and they're like, well, I'm, and they try to default, right? They try to default to, well, I am here to be a good person. I didn't say, why are you here? Why are you? And all, it's like, and then, and then eventually when they know why they are, then they realize I can create who I want to be. And then when they know who they want to be, then they can say, now I want to create this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much power in that. The visionaries of the world, I mean, Jeff Bezos has become very systematic, but I would say, at least starting out, there was the eye of the dragon in him, because he felt, he saw, this was, I mean, think about going back 20 years and talking to somebody about what Amazon is today. And they'd be like, please, one place where nobody, what's the internet it's a fad. Okay. Well, but maybe people will use it for, at best, they're going to use it for, gambling and porn. And maybe they'll buy some stuff, but it's not going to, but one place, and it's going to give me everything I need to buy, and it's going to give me television, and it's going to ship stuff, and it's going to,
Give me
everything else
groceries.
that's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. you know, but, but it existed, right? It existed in his universe, and he brought it through him by removing the boxes, by getting to his core. Amazon didn't come out of the Wharton or McKinsey playbook. It couldn't have, because it didn't exist before. If it didn't exist, there is no playbook for it, and that's the whole thing. Do you want to if you create a business that has a playbook, it's by default a Me Too business. When you create a business that doesn't have a playbook, that's your kung fu.
Right.
So.
Right. No, I love it. So because my question, and I think I have the answer in my head as far as what I think, but what is your observation around why people keep running back to the box?
Conditioning, pure and simple. I will tell you, and like somebody great to listen to, he doesn't phrase it maybe he phrases it as a box once in a while, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm a huge follower of Dr. Dispenza's, because he bridges that gap between, reality and woo-woo, with science. And yet he goes back and forth from science to woo, and you're like, oh yeah, it all makes sense now. But we need to make that crossover. We need to get to that part of ourselves. So the reason we keep going back to the box is the brain becomes and if you listen to Dr. Dispenza, he'll explain it a hell of a lot better than I will. But by the time you're 7 years old, you're basically conditioned into who you're going to be. I think the old Jesuit saying, show me the baby from 0 to 7, and I will show you the man. Because they knew by 7 years old, all the neural networks are already set up, and boom, 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 and you're processing certain things, and all your filters are there, and so all communication now starts being filtered through these little boxes that you created. Now we need certain boxes to survive. There needs to be a box to tie my shoes. There needs to be a box to cut my meat. There needs to be a box to go to the bathroom, wake up, get dressed, and whatever. But we don't realize that we're building boxes for everything else. That people are giving us boxes, right? Your parents are just dumping, they call it baggage, but it's really just boxes, right? They're opening up that storage closet in your brain and going, slamming the door closed and saying, okay, you're full. And so it's our brain, it's our body that, remembers certain things, remembers certain feelings, remembers certain responses. And it gets ingrained in the body, into the cells, into the nervous system, into the functioning between the neurons in the brain and the neurons in the heart and the neurons in the digestive tract. And we're just like response machines, because the subconscious mind is a recording and playback device. That's all that it is. It's the playbook. I said before about playbooks. It's the playbook. A very small portion of your brain is the conscious outside of limitations thing that says, I want to create great and grandiose. I want to have amazing, and allows that freedom, because the body goes, yeah, but you got to give me a program. You got to, the screen's blank, dude. You got to give me a program, because if we're blank, then we're just going to be like, lost. And so it's just that habit of going back. So the
Mm-hmm.
way to, I guess, start breaking the habit is to just become aware of the thinking, to become aware when you're going back to the box. And I will warn you, it's a pain in the butt. And I do it many, many times a day. I go, I have a thought and I go, wait a minute, nope, that's my old conditioned thought, old conditioned thought, old conditioned thought,
Mm-hmm.
and I realize I'm going to be doing that for the rest of my life, right? Because I probably had more programmed into me by the age of 7 than I'll ever be able to get, fully rid of. But as long as I can know that I'm having that experience and I can catch it, that's a win. That's a big win, because as soon as you do catch it, then the mind goes like this. It goes and it splits,
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to look at, and say, huh, I'm able to actually look at the thought. Whereas before it was just automatic. Now, like, why would I want to call him? Or why would I want to do that? Or why would I want to buy that? Or, why would I want to just not have that call or whatever? And you stack up those wins, you'd start dismantling a box, right? Because now, like your old cardboard boxes in the attic. Now, the first time you put that lid on that box, nice and stuff. But if you've opened that box like 100 times, eventually it starts, start caving in and everything. It's a weak box. Same thing here. Boom, 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 until
Mm-hmm.
eventually the box caves.
Mm. I like
Yeah.
that visual. Yeah, repeatedly opening the box.
Yeah.
And so that process, it sounds like, I mean, I love the description of like you see the glimmer of the dragon,
Yeah.
right? Of like actually letting somebody out kind of in full force, like who they
Yeah.
are and that their essence. Um, Talk to me how, for people that want to work with you, what are the ways that people can work with you?
Gold bullion. Uh,
My favorite.
you know, uh, tell me whoever is assistant to Satoshi is for block or for Bitcoin, and give me his wallet. No,
Hilarious.
um,
We've got a whole bunch of pirate tokens at our house. You want those? My
oh, there you
son's,
go.
yeah.
Are they chocolate?
Not chocolate. No, they're not
uh,
even chocolate. I
uh,
know.
no, people can just, hey, look. I am open for a lot of things. Now, obviously, Eric, I want you to come fix my plumbing. No, you mean within reason. You know what I do. So they can reach out to me. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Erik Luhrs, ErikLuhrs. I'm the only Bruce Lee of revenue generation you'll find. You
I
can go to
love
my
it. There should only be one. There
there
should
should
only be one.
there can be only one.
That's right.
Uh, or my website, erikluhrs.com, ErikLuhrs.com. I will warn you, it's sparse. So really LinkedIn is the best place to find stuff. And also if you Google me, there's tons of stuff out there as well. If you want to, interviews or whatever,
Mm,
read my book on Amazon, Be Do Sale.
awesome.
Lots of ways to interact with me.
Excellent.
Uh,
And the folks, just so that people can self-identify, when the folks that are ready to work with you
mm.
are actually ready, what are they saying to themselves?
Eric's the smartest guy I know. Uh,
Awesome.
no, well, problems in business. So we usually notice the business problem before we notice, like, like nobody ever Googles, how do I tap into my inner self to then release the dragon so that I can then scale my business?
Right. Right.
But now that I think about it, I should probably get that keyword, because I could probably get it for like 1 cent per 1,000 hits. Uh, like, really, you want that? Uh, no, but they would be saying to them, they would be looking at their business and they'd be in the 6-figure range, and they'd
Mhm.
say, either I want to get to high 6 figures or maybe even 7. I feel kind of stuck. I feel like I have too much competition. I don't know how to differentiate myself. I'm not excited
Mm,
anymore. You know, all the classic, you know, business issues. But really, the overriding thing is going to be your feeling, right? Because if you feel like, well, yeah, but I got all this, right? I can figure this out and I can figure that out, and you've got tactics and you've got strategies, and you feel confident in those tactics and strategies, I would say, then, you know, go do the tactics and
Mm-hmm.
strategies. It's when you feel like there's more potential within me and there's more potential within this business than's been showing up.
Mm.
And I have this feeling, I don't even know what it is. I don't know, I can't see it, but I feel it. That's the dragon tapping at the back of your brain saying, you know, I'm ready to come out when you're ready to let me out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they would know that I'm the kind of guy they want to talk to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that, particularly the piece around differentiation, right?
Hmm.
How do I differentiate myself? How do I, it's the whole like blue ocean, red ocean, like how do I stand apart in a way
Hmm.
that people see what I'm here to do and what my business is here to do? Awesome. So I love connecting on LinkedIn. I highly recommend people go check out Erik Luhrs, Luhrs. Be sure to visit the show notes as well. You can find those at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Erik, what final thoughts do you want to leave with people? What do you want them to know?
As I tell people, don't die with your kung fu still inside you.
Oh, it's a big one.
Yep.
It's a big one. That's the perfect end note. All right. Thank you, Erik. So appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Okay.